Hey, this is Videobob from Bob's Prop Shop, and hovering next to me is Delorean Time Machine number 15. You know, I never thought we were going to do this many of them. And this one's for a really special client, and I want to give you a tour, show you how it works. Alright, well, this is a Mr. Fusion version, and it features some of the same things you've seen in our other cards, but I want to show you in detail exactly how everything works inside. Let me come around here and open this door. Now this one does feature our fog machine. I guess while we have it here, I'll show you how the fog machine works. There's a switch right over here. Come on over here. Ow. All right, this switch here turns on the rear fog lights, the one that says free on, that green switch. And you'll see that there's these fog lights back here. And there's a remote control, which Chris has over there. I'm going to turn out the lights. Chris hit the remote control. And that's how you get your fog. How about that? That's good. Speaking of the fog machine, that's under the trunk here. We've designed the fog machine in such a way that it can be easily removed and easily refilled and operated by the customer. There's a timer here that you can choose to use if you want to set it to run on a timer, and it can adjust how many seconds the fog goes off and what interval. There's a built-in charger here for charging the battery system that runs this and the inverter. There's a plug right under the wheel here that can be tucked away neatly. You can plug this in when you get to your destination, and that'll keep everything charged up and running. Now to turn that on and off, there's a remote switch we wired right here. The one that says cap pulse. It doesn't really matter what these are written here. That's what it was in the movie. Cap pulse turns that on and off. So if you look over at the fog machine again, you'll see that with this switch I can simply turn it off or turn it back on. So that's a cool function. Alright, let me run around this side. You stay there. And I'll show you the interior just like Doc did in the movie. Now, this is the time drive switch. This operates pretty much everything in the car. When you set it to the middle position, this red light comes on, that's your standby position. When you turn it all the way over to the left, it turns on all the goodies. Are we ready? Here we go. That turns on everything. Your time circuits, your plutonium gauges, upper console, speedometer, and of course, the flux capacitor. That's what makes time travel possible. Now, this flux capacitor features our flux dispersal mode, and that can be activated a couple of different ways. See this little knob here? This little knob under the drive switch, when you rotate that, if you look over here on the speedometer, you can set this speed to any speed you want. So if you're doing like a photo shoot or something and you wanted it to be at a certain speed, you can simply turn this knob and adjust it. Now the flux capacitor, whenever the speedometer goes to 88 miles an hour, the flux capacitor will be activated. So if I simply turn this to 88, it goes full on in flux dispersal. Oh my gosh. So if you look at the speedometer here, you'll see it's brightly lit at 88 miles an hour. So when I pull it back, you can watch it happen. Now, also, whenever that happens, your dates are going to change. And let me show you another unique switch. Let me turn those fog lights off. This little tiny switch here that's right next to that green switch, that activates a special feature. What that's for is, if you remember in the movie, the first time he goes through time, what do you need? You're looking for your flashlight? Here, I can do that. Look, can you see now this little tiny switch? Don't put your finger in front of the camera. So this little switch here, now what that activates, if you remember in the movie, the first time he goes through time and he tries to turn the flux back on, he's out of plutonium. We can simulate that little scene. And this is how you do it. You flip that switch up, and we're going to first program the time circuits. Let me show you how that's done. Now, I always like to press this enter button just to clear things out, make sure everything's clear. And you have your destination time, your present time, and your last time departed. You first have to set your destination time. So let's pick a time like October 26, 1985, 0121. Now you have to choose AM or PM, 0, for AM, 1 for PM. Let's go with AM. Hit enter. So we have January 26, 1985, 01, 21. Okay? So, let's try that again. I wanted that to be October. 10, 26, 1985, 1 AM. Okay, there you go. So that's going to be our destination time. Now, in order to go to that time, you can do one of three things. You can spin that little knob to 88 miles an hour like I just showed you. You can drive the car 88 miles an hour. Or you could press this button. That's right. When you go 88 miles per hour in the car, everything actually does that. This thing will go bright and the times will change. So try to keep it under 88. But this is a time event simulation when you press this big red reset button. Watch what's going to happen when I press this. When I press this, the speedometer is going to go up to 88 miles an hour. When it hits 88, the flux is going to go bright. The spectrum analyzer behind me is going to go full on. And then the needles are going to drop and the times are going to change. And then it's going to slow back down to 0. You ready? Here we go. Ramping up to 88 miles an hour. Here we go. Holding on tightly. And bang! Oh, flux dispersal. The needles drop down to 0. And now look at our time. We're now in October 26, 1985 at 01:21 AM. Now here's the cool thing. From this point on, your present time will start counting as your real-time clock. So that's how you set the time. Now remember what happened in the movie. When he turned off the system and turned it back on, he was out of plutonium. That's very, very annoying. So you want to reset that. And what you do is you simply flip that little switch that I showed you. Down. Pull it back up again. Everything's reset back to normal. Needles go back to their normal position. Now, if you don't want that to happen every time you go through a time event, simply leave that switch down, and that won't happen. So if you wanted to pick another time, like red letter date in history, November 5th, 1955 at 0600. Red letter date in history, let's go to that time, and we'll hit the button, ramping up to 88 miles an hour on the speedometer. Here comes the flux capacitor. Isn't that fun? Shield eyes from light. It's very bright. And that way when you turn it off, turn it back on, you no longer have the empty thing if you don't have that switch set. Okay, speaking of flux dispersal, let's talk about another switch that we have here. This little switch here on the very end, this black lighted switch, this activates the Flux Bands. So when I flip that switch up, you'll now take a look outside. Flux bands are nicely bright. Matter of fact, here, let's kill this light behind us. Oh, look at that. Isn't that something? Now these are waterproof LEDs. They use very little power, they don't create any heat, and they won't run down the battery. These are white, just like they were in the film, and these are legal to drive with, at least in the state of Texas. You can leave these on while you're driving, and if a cop hassles you, you could say, hey, I'm allowed to have white light on the car. Unlike blue or red or some other light you can't have on the car. You can't have blue lights on your car at all. So this is the way it was in the movie. They used a lot of special effects to make it look kind of blue and lightning, but in reality they used white neon. But we don't want to use glass because it requires a lot of high voltage, a lot of power, and they break easily. So with modern technology we now use these LEDs, and this will work out great. And that little switch simply turns it on and off. Of course, when you get that flux going nice and bright, oh, look how cool that is. So that's how we build our cars, just the way they were supposed to be in the movie. We do certain modernizations to them only for the ease of use, but we don't change the aesthetics. We want it to stay true to form, the way we do these wires, the way we do the zip ties, the color and the placement of these flux boxes, these cords and cables, the rubber brackets. Every little detail is paid attention to. The direction of these, brackets and how we attach them to the car, the screws, the rivets, all of these different things are very important to us to try to keep the car as true to the movie as we can. Like this rear window section, we completely remove the entire rear window section, replace it with this metal shelving unit. There's multiple pieces that go together here. It's sealed up, airtight, watertight. You could see how this has been caulked, but basically this outer section and the inner section are sandwiched together in foam with other aluminum insulation, and it's solid. It's not going to rattle. It's not going to squeak, and it keeps out the outside exhaust and the sound and everything. This is the best way that you could possibly do it. Now, I will say that this is a little bit different than they did the movie car. The real movie car, that was just wide open. You could just see right into the back of the car. That was not a good design. So that's something that we've changed that's different from the movie in an effort to make the car more usable. I mean, you can't be driving around with the back window completely open with rain going in on top of the fuse box. So we waterproofed that and allowed for these other props to be placed. The Mr. Fusion does not open. The reason for that is because, you know, the reinforcements that would require that to work can't really handle the rigors of driving. And after building 15 of these cars, driving them all over the country, and I've owned quite a few DeLoreans, you really want this thing to stay secured. So we've got this thing bolted down pretty tight. People try to steal it. They mess with it all the time. You're driving around. You don't want anybody messing with it. So we've got that on there super tight. Now, the engine bay, people ask me sometimes, how do you get to the engine to work on it? It's pretty simple. You just lift this up, and that's all there is to it. And you've got total access to your motor. You can see the piping of how we did our fog machine. And there you go. You got access to your motor. Just prop this up, and you can remove this if you really need to, if you're doing major engine work. But it's as simple as that. So this is how we build the DeLorean Time Machines. This is how they work and operate. And if you want your own DeLorean Time Machine, check us out at bobspropshop.com. Check us out on our Facebook at Bob's Prop Shop. We have a photo album of every car that we've ever built, and you can see the process. And you can watch us live on our webcam at Bob's Prop Shop. You can see all of us here on 4 different cameras, see us building the props. Not only do we do these, we do the Ghostbuster car, we do the Blues Brother car, we do A-Team, Knight Rider, all kinds of, all of your favorite movie cars. But this particular one is for a very special client, and I know that he's going to enjoy it, and you'll probably be seeing this thing on national television, on possibly a sports channel. So just wanted to show this thing off. This is DeLorean Time Machine, number 15. I'm Videobob.